learn to run? How about return to run after an injury, or in my case, back surgery? If you're new, welcome. My name is Dr. Matt Minard. I'm a physical therapist that's passionate about helping you run smarter, safer, and faster. I want to share with you what the next 12 weeks is going to look like. I had surgery, wasn't allowed to run for 12 weeks. It sucked, it was hard, I missed running so much, and I want to share with you in real time. I'm 13 weeks out of surgery now, got the clearance to run. How do I get back to running? How do I get back to running consistently without getting injured? My goal for this, my purpose of this, is for you not only to follow along, but to do this with me. I'm going to share the training plan. I'm going to share each run, a video vlog style. Before, what's the goal? What are we doing? After, what are the stats? What would I have done differently? And just how I go about systematically increasing returning back to running. As much as this sucked to not be able to run for 12 weeks and lose a lot of the progress that I've made and just all the gunk that comes along with being sedentary and inactive, it'll be worth it to me if I encourage or help one of you to get running. So I want to outline the next 12 weeks. What's it going to look like? So briefly, what's some of my running history? I'm not someone that you would look at and be like, oh boy, I bet he's a runner. 6'1", 210 pounds, asthmatic, pancake flat feet. And like a lot of you, I started running for the physical benefits, to try to lose weight. But over the last several years, what's kept me with it is the mental benefits, how it makes me feel, how it changes my mood, how it alters my sense of stress, things that seemed daunting and overwhelming. After a run, that feeling, how it just totally resets your mood. So like a lot of things, we don't realize how much we appreciate something until it's gone. So for the last 12 weeks, not being allowed to run was brutal. I missed it so much. And I want to share with you how I can contain that excitement, not overdo it, and how I'm going to go over the next 12 weeks getting back to it and setting some guidelines in place that, yes, I used to be able to run this amount at this speed. Why am I not going to be able to do that right away? And how can I have a plan and build towards that so I can continuously see progress without getting injured? So a little bit of my backstory, literally backstory, no pun intended. I've had back pain for about 11 years. It's a classic case of our genetics loads the gun and then our lifestyle pulls the trigger. The genetics was, I was born with a condition called spina bifida occulta, where my lumbar spine didn't fully finish developing. So as a result of some, what we'll call instability, weightlifting, heavy weightlifting, before I was a physical therapist, not being smart about it, developed an injury, a stress fracture over time. And so I want to explain that quickly with an analogy. So if you imagine our spine, we have bones, and then there's the disc, the space between. If we look at a top-down view, the vertebrae, it's kind of like a three-legged bar stool. We have three individual legs. We need all those legs to be stable and intact for it to be level, for the entire spine to be stable. So with spina bifida, it's like one of my legs of my stool didn't fully finish developing or forming, and then on top of that, there was a fracture. Part of the leg broke. So 11 years of having that, having the instability, as you can imagine, everything above and below is going to have to work to compensate, and the disc, the space between, wore out. I was having a lot more pain, constant daily pain. I didn't like talking about it a lot because my job as a physical therapist to help others and treat others with it. I was able to put this off as long as possible because of my passion for mechanics, how I stand, how do I sit, how do I lean, how do I move, how do I walk, how do I run. But I felt like I was trying to build a house on sand because it wasn't stable. So as a result of having this injury and having this pain for so long, they did a fusion. Pretty much they took that broken leg and they fixed it. They plated it. We still need the leg, the bone, to fuse, to heal, but they set it up to allow healing to take place and made the entire structure, the entire stool, a lot more stable. So this is my actual x-ray. I'm 13 weeks post-op now. I'm happy to say that while I still have a lot of healing to take place, I can already tell the benefits. I already feel better. I feel more stable. When I'm working on patients, when I'm standing, when I'm leaning, I feel like my back's not going to give out. I feel more strength. So I'm excited to not only continue to see these benefits, but get back to running and continue to promote this healing, not getting in the way of that, and hopefully for the rest of my life, set myself up for movement as medicine without having the repercussions of being too much or getting injured. I also want to motivate you, if you've had surgery, if you have an injury, that we can heal and show you that if I can do it, you can do it too. So for the first 12 weeks, wasn't allowed to do any running, obviously, but I could walk. And so what I did was had this spreadsheet. What I did, I started off with 15 minutes. How far can I go? If I didn't have this, which in the beginning I didn't, I just walked, had no plan, I overdid it. Felt good in the moment, did too much too soon, paid for it. It took me a couple weeks to recover. So I started this. I started 15-minute walk, go. How far can I go? Record it. What was the distance? What was my pace? What was my heart rate? And then as time went on, if I could improve on something, whether it's my pace got a little bit faster, my heart rate response was a little bit lower, then I increased by a minute. And slowly over time kept increasing to the point where I'm at now, about 24, 25 minutes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that time in its entirety and we're going to break it up into intervals. Running for a little bit, walking, running, walking for the entirety of that time. And so having this structure, having this plan, if you have never ran before, I think this is a great way to build a foundation. You don't need to run right away. We can still burn calories, you can still move, get so many of the same mental and physical benefits by just walking. So big picture. Let's talk about injuries. Going from me not running to running. Let's use this example. You've probably heard me say it before. Let's say that I haven't been out in the sun in a long time. If I want to go out in the sun, let's say the sun's like running. If I go out and I spend too much time in the sun, I get too much UV rays on my body, to my skin, too soon, without enough recovery and adaptation, we get injured. There's a breaking point, there's a limit to everything in our body. So the goal for this is, how can we go into the sun just enough, not too much, not get injured, go in the shade. Day goes by, 2 days go by, our body evolves, it adapts, it heals. We do a little bit more. And so slowly over time, going from, we'll say, walking to being in the shade to running, how do we go about that process? So this is kind of the example of thinking about, we're just doing this in doses over time. So how can we track this? In that analogy of the sun, how can we track how much sun that we're getting so that we don't get too much? We do evolve, we get tanner, or how do we go from walking to running? The two variables that we can fluctuate with, we have the intensity of the sun, or in running, the intensity of load and force and impact. And then we have time, how long? How long are we out in the sun, or how long are we running? So how we are going to fluctuate the intensity. If you think about the force, every time we hit the ground with our foot, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. When we go from standing to walking faster, to jogging, to running, the faster that we go, the more force that we're creating to the ground, the more force that our body's taking. So how we're going to go about fluctuating the intensity is doing intervals, walking and running. In the example, if we were going to go out in the sun for, let's say, 10 minutes, Instead of the entire 10 minutes running, being out in the sun, what if for about 30 seconds we go in the sun, and then we spend a minute and we go in the shade? And then we go back in the sun for 30 seconds, back in the shade for a minute. And we repeat those for cycles for that entirety. That's what we're going to be doing with the intervals. We're going to be going from running to walking, fluctuating how much time, which is our next bit, how much time are we spending, but also how much, what's the intensity. And then so over time, we allow adaptation to occur, we allow healing to take place, and we can progress, we can do more. So here's one of the coolest things about our body. A lot of us take it for granted. I certainly do, and I try not to, but this is something I try to remember and think about. Our bodies adapt. They can heal. We have homeostasis. Our body adapts to its demands. As long as we do it slow enough, as long as we allow enough recovery to take place, our body does become stronger. It does become more resilient. Where if I have a stick, if I keep applying the same bending force over time, even if I give it a week break, over time it gets weaker. Versus our body, imagine the bones, if we apply just enough stress, not too much where it causes a fracture, but we allow recovery, time to take place, we do adapt. We do actually become stronger. So I like to use this visual when it comes to these zones of how much force we can take before we get injured. Green, we're Gucci. Yellow, proceed with caution. Red is an injury, or what I like to say is a disruption in the integrity of the tissue. But when the body, if we apply, let's say 100 pounds of stress to the body, and we allow time, recovery to take place, we give it 100 pounds again, where we might have been in that yellow zone before, that proceed with caution, now due to adaptation, having greater resilience, now we're in the green. So this is what's so cool about our body is we can adapt. We can have our green zones of how much stress we can take, get higher, with the injury getting further and further away. But the key is time, is recovery. Recovery is key. So for adaptation to take place, we can't just keep pounding and pounding and pounding and stressing without having any recovery. That's where the magic happens. That's where the adaptation happens, is in that recovery. So here's an example of what it might look like. So Monday, we do our workout. Tuesday, we recover. Now Wednesday, here's where we have to ask ourselves, what's our goal? If we're trying to improve, we need to progress. We need to stimulate. We need to do a little bit more than we did last time. And so there's kind of three options that we have to be mindful of. If we want to progress, we do have to stress. We do have to do more. Systematically, a little bit more. And that's where we're going to fluctuate with the interval time and the amount of time that we're spending with the running. We can, if we want to retain and we want to not lose, not necessarily progress either, we just would repeat exactly what we did on Monday. But here's where we have to be careful. If we do too much progressing, if we do too much too soon, we overstress and we regress. So the key, the adaptation, it's with recovery. So this is precisely what I'm going to do. Over the next 12 weeks, I'm going to continue to build on what I did with the walking, but taking that time and changing up the dosage and structuring my weeks in such a way that I slowly progress and going from not running at all and walking to running continuously the whole time. Where you start on your journey, you can follow along, but you can adapt or adjust to, depends on where you're at. But the overall principle is the same. So here's an example of where I'm going to start. I'm going to run 3 days a week with my work schedule, what's best for me, Sunday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 3 days a week. The times that I'm not running, they're doing these intervals, these workouts, that's where the recovery is taking place. That's where the adaptation is taking place. But the way it's structured, each and every single run, we're doing slightly more, playing around with that dosage. So for example, first run, 60 seconds of running, 60 seconds of walking, 8 rounds of that. And for me, I'm adding some walking at the end of that just to continue building where I did before of that, the walking. And then recover, same intervals, 60 seconds like being out in the sun, 60 seconds in the shade. We're going to repeat that, run, walk, 9 rounds. So it's getting 1 more minute of running or sun exposure. And then the next and the final run of the week will be 10 rounds. So it's going to be the same consistent intervals of time each week, but each run, 1 more round. And then the next week, we start over with 8 rounds, but now we fluctuate promoting more running and less walking. So in the next week example, 60 seconds of running, 45 seconds of walking, 8 rounds, then 9 rounds, then 10. And so this is going to go on for 12 weeks to get to the point where my ultimate goal is to be able to run for 30 minutes continuously, faster and safer, and not getting injured and getting back to where I was before. So there's different reasons why this can be beneficial for you. If you're someone that just doesn't have the cardio or the wind, this is a fantastic way to build that up slowly, to not overdo it. In my case, and well as everybody too, just not doing too much and getting injured, for me to allow healing to continue to take place for my back, these parameters of setting it, this is what's going to allow me to do it slowly over time to the point where I don't injure anything. I don't have an overuse injury. So whether it's for your cardio, whether it's just building up your body, your foundation, this is the structure. The way that I also have a plan is these periodic benchmarks or checkpoints where I have what's called a run for distance. Set amount of time, how far can you get? Kind of like I did with the walking before. 15 minutes, how far can I go? Next time, did I go further? Which means I'd be moving faster. So I have every 3 weeks a different benchmark. 20 minutes, go. How far can I get? 3 weeks later, repeat. Can I get a little bit further? I can run as much as I need, I can walk as much as I need. But the goal is just seeing how far can I go in that allotted time. And it increases every 6 weeks by 5 minutes. So the way that I like to think about this, instead of a traditional training plan of you do this and you just keep going, this becomes like a benchmark where if you have one run one day and things are worse, maybe you can't even finish it, you've got options. You can either just repeat that day and you just push everything down, or you could go back and you could go there eventually. But having this light system in place of either progressing, repeating, or regressing, it allows you again to be smarter, to be more systematic, and to be a little bit more flexible with your training. So here's my short and long-term goals. So in 3 months, by October 6th, I want to run 3.33 miles in 30 minutes. That's my ultimate goal. When I do that final 30-minute run for distance, my goal is to get 3.33 miles. And then what I'm going to do, because I have training plans, I've done them before, but for my half marathon plan, I have it that you need to be able to run continuously for 30 minutes straight. Doesn't matter how fast, but running for 30 minutes continuously, this is going to feed right into one of my half marathon training plans. So I'm going to be posting on YouTube this entire journey of this return to run for 12 weeks, the intervals, and then I'm going to be also doing the same thing for my half marathon plan. That will be for my Learn to Run Club members, so it can again feel like you're doing it along with me and incorporate some of the other stuff that I do as far as mobility days, strength workouts, what intervals, and how do I incorporate that as well when it comes to training for races. Here's some other personal goals to keep me accountable and to keep me motivated. In 3 months, I want to continue strength training 3 times a week. I want to weigh 190 pounds. I got a little bit thick, not running, eating, and promoting healing is what I was telling myself. By eating more and more, I gained about 20 pounds. So I want to get down to 190 pounds. I'll be doing that by recording what I eat on MyFitnessPal. I'll be sharing some of that along as well. I've got a new scale. I've got a body analyzer that I got from Hume Health that you can also get with a discount code that does body composition. I'll be sharing that every week as well. And I'm going to be vlogging this entire journey. I want to make sure I do weekly posts in real time so we can do this together. And then in 6 months, I want to do half marathon. I want to lose a little bit more weight. I want to get down to 184 pounds, more of my fighting weight. And I want to vlog that journey on the Learn to Run Club. And I want to do this not only for my mental health, my physical health, not only to try to help promote and encourage you, but I'm getting married next February, 2/22/25. And I want to go into that feeling as mentally fit and as physically fit as I can. I got to fit into my dress. So that's a lot of my motivation. So I hope you'll follow along. I'll be posting the week of the 3 runs all together every Sunday. If there's enough of an interest, I will maybe do some lives on Sundays that we can just chat. But I encourage you to comment, to do this again, just do this with me. I don't want to do this by myself. I'm extremely extroverted. I like to feel like we're doing this as more of a community and a team effort. I'll be posting these to my Learn to Run YouTube, sprinkling a little bit onto the Instagram. I'm still going to be incorporating some of my educational stuff. I have some stuff already videos, some stuff planned, but expect every Sunday a vlog type journey with me. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for following along. And yeah, let's run smarter, safer, and faster together.